Yep, all of this without cheats. Hello everyone, my name is Waffle and welcome to the 20th anniversary episode of Strats Explained Magically Easy, a video series where I explain how and why different strats and glitches that speedrunners use work. Today we are going to look at the trick that allows you to first export and then import back any vehicle you want. You are not going to be limited by the official lists. We are going to divide this video into two parts. In the first one I'll teach you how to do this trick, and in the second one I'll explain why it works. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. Method number 1. You will need the vehicle you want to export and any vehicle from the active list you haven't exported yet. Just go to the board and choose anything that hasn't been crossed off yet. Get into the vehicle you want to export, we are going to be using it to push the other one, in my case the bike. Our goal is push the bike into the marker, drive into the marker ourselves and stop in it before the bike stops. It is going to be a little bit easier if you push along the lines on the ground, unlike I'm doing here. I know, all of that sounds complicated, but in reality it's super simple. Take a look. If you, just like me, haven't exported any vehicles yet, you'll receive exactly $0, which is a great indication that the trick worked. If you actually want to receive some money, export any vehicle normally, preferably the most expensive one, because that's how much you are going to be receiving for every vehicle you export using this trick later. But what if you want to export a vehicle you can't use to push other vehicles with, like a helicopter or a plane? Then you can use the second method. First, we disable the exporting marker by importing something. Now we put both vehicles in the marker that is no longer here, so remember where it is supposed to be. I use the squares on the ground, it's 4 from the side and 5 to 6 from the wall. Now get in the vehicle that we've imported and put it to the side. We want to explode it in a way that the blast from the explosion reaches our vehicles but doesn't destroy them, so don't put it too close. Set the car on fire, get back in the helicopter, and just wait. As you can see, this method is also super simple, and most importantly, you can use it for any type of vehicle you want. There's actually more. The second method has a faster alternative. Once again, start by importing a vehicle and then put the vehicle from the real list into the marker. Now drive the imported vehicle far away so the marker spawns back. Now drive into the marker in the vehicle you want to export and shoot the other one. It doesn't matter which method you use, you will be able to import the vehicle back properly. Wait for the correct day of week, don't pay attention to the wrong label in the menu, and import our Maverick back. Time to take our trophy for a ride. Speedrunners use a combination of both methods. While the first list is active, they export a stallion, a car from the second list, using the pusher method. Then they finish the first list normally. Therefore, now they have exported 11 vehicles, 10 from the first list plus the stallion, and unlock the second list. Now everything is rather simple. Import a stallion and park energy 500 on the ship. Move away the stallion so the marker appears again. Import another stallion. Put the first stallion into the marker that we can see. Move away the second stallion. Drive into the marker on energy. Shoot the car. It gets exported. Import another stallion. And repeat the whole process enough times until the mission is passed. This trick saves more than 20 minutes, which is a lot even for the 100% category. The benefits for a casual player are obvious as well. You can export up to 30 favorite vehicles. You can export the same model multiple times, so it becomes available for importing every day. You can save unique vehicles that only appear in specific missions, like the SWAT van from the last mission or an Andromeda. The last one is not going to be easy because of its size, especially if you want to import it back properly. Luckily for us, Rhans recorded a thorough guide explaining how to export and then import an Andromeda. You can find the link to the video in the description. Special vehicle collectors found a way to import vehicles in a no extra form, meaning no decals or other stuff on them. That's very useful for getting no extra hot rings because there are not so many alternative methods. If you're curious, you can find the link to that guide in the description as well. Also, don't forget that while an import expert list is active, every vehicle on that list that you haven't delivered yet has an extra spawn point in the world. And if you never deliver this vehicle, this spawn point stays. So choose the list you like the most and save up to 10 extra spawn points. All in all, there are plenty of benefits. Feel free to use this trick in your playthroughs. But now, I think it's finally time to look at how it all works. Import export is located in main.scm because that's just a script, like missions, and luckily we have the source code for that because it was leaked with Definitive Edition. The script itself isn't very hard, however it's quite lengthy, so what we're going to do first is we're going to understand how the game works when everything is fine, when we are doing stuff properly. We are going to start from up here, that's just a comment, it doesn't do anything. Basically, that's a note that says that the following code is for the situation when the player is in the exporting mode, which is apparently the default mode. The very first line checks that we are in that mode, the second one checks that we haven't completed import export yet, and the next one checks that mgoals is equal to 0. A little spoiler, mgoals is like a stage. Currently we are at stage 0, the game waits for us to deliver any vehicle. After that it's gonna take the vehicle, it's gonna give us money, and those are gonna be different stages, and we'll see that a little bit later. After this, we check the car that is currently attached to the magnet on the crane, and we save it. Later you'll see why we need that. This line just draws the markers that we see on the screen in the game, but the fun starts here. Get random car in sphere no save. These coordinates are the center of the sphere, this is its radius, -1 means that we accept all of the vehicles, and finally, if we find the car, we save it in a variable called car. But obviously the sphere might be empty, there might be nothing in the marker, so the very first thing we do, we check if there is actually anything in the marker. And if there is, then we check that the vehicle is not dead, not destroyed, and we check that it is stopped. Check that it is not in the air, and finally we check it is not attached to the crane right now. So basically this is why we've stored the last attached vehicle. If all of these conditions are true, we get car model for our vehicle to understand what we have, a Sanchez, a Stallion, a Maverick, etc. And we save that model into the variable called temp model. After this we check if the car is on the wanted list, so we go through all 10 cars on the board, like in game. We see if our model is on that list, and if it is, we check that we haven't delivered it yet, so it's not crossed off. If all of that is true, we set the flag that says, yep, we found the car that is needed by the game. And if this flag is set right here, the game is gonna force everyone to get out of our vehicle, and mgoals is going to be incremented by 1. ++ means increment by 1. So all of this is obviously the code that is responsible for when we are delivering a vehicle using the crane. But we also know that we can deliver a vehicle if we just drive it into the marker, and the code for that is located a little bit lower, right here. First of all, we check that our player is not dead and not busted, then we check that we are in a vehicle, and we check that we are stopped in a specific marker. But I need to mention that this marker is not a sphere, it's actually a rectangle. Well, technically it's a 3D figure, so it's a rectangular cuboid, I think it's called. Here's the center of that, and here's how much that rectangle extends from the center along each axis. So this is for X, for Y, and for Z. So in game we actually have two markers, the sphere one and this one. And the second one we can't see, but this is why I mentioned that it is going to be a little bit easier for you if you drive along the lines on the floor, because this way you're gonna enter the square diagonally and you'll simply have a little bit more space. Obviously this is not a requirement, but can make your life a little bit easier. So now we understand why it is beneficial to enter the marker along the lines. But okay, if all of that is true, if there is a vehicle in the marker and we are currently sitting inside of it, then we're gonna store that car in a variable called car, and once again we are going to get car model and save it in temp model. We are gonna check if the car is on the list, go through all 10 of them, if we find it, we set the flag, and if the flag is set, then mgoals is gonna be incremented by 1. Okay, if mgoals is equal to 1, so it means that we've actually delivered the vehicle that was needed, using either method. The game is gonna fade out, do some other stuff, but let's go to the relevant part, which starts here at the stage mgoals equals to 3. Because here we have a goals up to import export update car lists. What do we do here? How do we update the lists? Well, once again, we have a loop that goes through all 10 vehicles on the board. We check that the model that we've just delivered is on that list, and obviously it's gonna be on the list because all of the previous conditions were already satisfied that checked the model. We see that it hasn't been crossed off yet, and if it hasn't, then we mark it as delivered, basically cross it off on the board, and then we calculate how much cash our player is going to receive. And the value depends on the car model, its current condition, etc. The final value is going to be stored in a variable called payout, and later we are going to receive that money. But this is not the only thing we are doing here. Later we are updating car generators. And this is basically the extra spawn in the world that I mentioned earlier. Now we are going to disable it because the car is delivered, the spawn is no longer needed. And last but not least, we are going to add that car to the unlocked list, which means that later we will be able to import it. Here we have a loop that goes through 42 slots. It's 42 because we are delivering 30 vehicles ourselves and they become available for importing, but also we have some bonus vehicles that are rewards after we've delivered a certain number of vehicles. We are looking for the first empty slot, and when we find the first one, we save our model into that slot, and now we can import it back anytime we want. Well, on a specific day of the week, of course. But this is how the game works when everything is fine and we deliver a vehicle the proper way. Now let's look what goes wrong. Why does the trick actually work? Let's go back all the way up here and ask ourselves. We have two different code branches. The first one is responsible for situations when we deliver a vehicle using the crane. Well, there's actually more to it, because we know that we can also deliver a vehicle but just pushing it into the marker. So technically, the first code branch is actually responsible for situations when we deliver a vehicle while not sitting inside of it. And the second code branch is responsible for situations when we deliver a vehicle while sitting inside of it, so by just driving into the marker. Can we trigger both of these code branches at the same time? And if so, what is going to happen? The very first thing we need to notice is the variables that are used. In the first branch we save the car model into the variable called temp model, but if I scroll to the second branch, we'll see that we use the same variable right here, and this is a recipe for a disaster. If something gets overwritten in the wrong way, then we can get a weird result. So let's take an example from the start of the video when I was pushing a Sanchez using a Manana and see what happens with the variables. We need to pay attention to two variables, temp model and mGoals. So, both of the vehicles are in the marker, let's see what happens. The first command, get random car in sphere, no save. Even though it says the random car, no matter how many times I tried to do the trick, it was always returning the vehicle that I was pushing, so in my case, the Sanchez. So I asked Nick, why is that? And Nick told me that the name is actually misleading, it's wrong. It doesn't return a random car, it returns the vehicle that is the closest to the center of the sphere. But there's even more to that. Apparently this command also skips some of the vehicles, namely the ones that the game cannot just take and delete. What are those vehicles? Well, the easiest example is mission vehicles. The game cannot just delete the mission vehicles without extra checks, because otherwise it would crash the game. It first needs to make sure that the vehicle is no longer needed. But we are not on a mission, we don't have any mission vehicles. What else? The game also cannot delete any vehicle if it has a mission character inside of it. And our player is a special case. The game always considers him a mission character. So the game cannot normally delete a vehicle if we are sitting inside of it. So this command is never gonna return the vehicle if we are inside of it, and that's why it's always returning the vehicle that we are pushing, so Sanchez. We are gonna assume all of these conditions are satisfied, and we get to this line, get car model, Sanchez, and save it into the variable temp model. So now temp model is Sanchez. Is Sanchez on the list? And yes, Sanchez is on the first list of import-export, so we set the flag, and therefore we increment mGoals. Now mGoals is 1, and temp model is the Sanchez. Let's see what happens here. Are we sitting in the vehicle inside of the marker? Yes, we are sitting in a Manana. So let's get the car model, Manana, and save it into temp model. So temp model is now no longer Sanchez, temp model is now Manana. Is temp model, is Manana on the list? No, Manana is not on import-export list, so we don't set a flag and we don't increment mGoals. Therefore, mGoals is still 1, but temp model is now mañana. Let's see what happens in that case. Well, the game sees that mGoals is now 1, so it says, oh, you've delivered something, let's start the sequence. Eventually, we are going to reach stage number 3, and once again, go sub to import export update card lists. What is gonna happen here? Once again, we are checking, is temp model, is mañana on the list? No, mañana is not on the list. Therefore, we are skipping and not executing everything that's inside. So we are not crossing any vehicle off the board. We are not recalculating the payout. The payout is now gonna have the previous value. Initially it's 0 before we deliver any vehicles, and if we deliver any vehicle normally, it's gonna be the last one that we've delivered, and that's exactly what I showed you earlier in the video. Okay, what else? Are we updating any card generators? Do we need to disable anything? Well, according to the game, we didn't cross anything off the list. We don't have to disable any spawns, so we don't do that. Add card to the unlocked list. We are just finding the first empty slot in that list. There are no extra checks for the model. And once we find it, we instantly add our temp model, our mañana, into that list, which means that we later can import it. So this is basically how this trick works, triggering both markers at the same time. If you've played with this trick, you might have a question. After successfully delivering a wrong vehicle using this trick and trying to import it back, you might notice that in the importing menu, the name might be the correct one, or it might be the wrong car name. Why is that? Well, if I scroll all the way down here, we will find a list of all of the labels for that menu. There are 42 different vehicles, and if we look closely, we'll see Energy 500, for example, is on that list. But why is it here? We don't need to deliver it and we don't get it as a bonus vehicle. Well, if we scroll all the way back to the bonus vehicles, the ones that are unlocked after a certain number of vehicles has been delivered, then we'll see that actually Energy 500 was on that list, but later the developers commented it out. So now it's a cut content, we don't get the vehicle, but the name, the label, is still on the list down there, so the game can use it. And that's why if you use this trick to deliver Energy 500, Hot Knife, or Dune Ride, then in the importing menu, the name of the vehicle is gonna be correct. If you deliver anything else, a Mañana, an Andromeda, a Maverick, you're gonna see the wrong name of the vehicle in the menu. However, the vehicle that you get is still gonna be the correct one, and obviously that's what matters the most. Alright, let's sum it all up. Turns out we actually have two markers in the same spot on this ship. The first one is for the vehicles that we either push into the marker or deliver with the crane. The second one is for the vehicles that we drive into that marker. Things go wrong if we trigger both of the markers at the same time. Specifically, we have to trigger the first marker with the vehicle that is actually needed by the game, that is on the list, for example, with a Sanchez. That would set a flag that we actually have delivered the vehicle. The second marker has to be triggered with a vehicle that is not on the list, for example, with a Mañana. But to check if a vehicle is needed or not, the game has to save the vehicle model in a variable. This overrides the previous value, so we no longer have a Sanchez in a variable, we now have a Mañana. Obviously none of the further checks pass because Mañana isn't needed for import-export. However, we've already received the signal that the vehicle has been delivered from the first marker, so the game progresses, gives us our reward and makes the saved model, Mañana, available for importing. Another thing I need to say is that we are actually quite lucky that this trick doesn't skip the code that gives you percentage, so you can still reach 100% completion, otherwise this trick wouldn't been used in speedruns. How can we fix this issue? The easiest way I can think of is to add an extra check for mGoals before the checks for the second marker. It would look somewhat like this, obviously don't forget to put an end if somewhere down below so we don't break the structure, and it would work the following way. If we deliver something through the first marker, mGoals is gonna be incremented from 0 to 1, and once we get to this line, is mGoals equal to 0? No, it's already 1, we don't check the second marker at all. If we don't deliver anything through the first marker, then mGoals is gonna stay 0, this condition is gonna be true, and we will check the second marker. However, the nicer approach in my opinion is taking the code for both of these markers and putting it in a separate function. Then it will be something like goes up check vehicles and markers. And then, if we find something in the first marker, we can do an early return. This way, everything that's below is not gonna be run. As you can see, there are many ways of fixing this issue. Finally, some of you might have a question. Why when we're using the second method, the vehicle that we put in the marker doesn't get auto-delivered once we activate the marker again? The answer is strange. This condition is not satisfied, so the game thinks that the vehicle is actually in the air, even though it clearly isn't. I'll be honest, I didn't dig deeper to understand why that happens, or why shooting or pushing the vehicle makes it magically land. To be honest, it's even more convenient for us this way, so who cares? Today, your challenge is not really a challenge. Just tell me, are you going to use this trick in your next playthrough? What vehicles are you going to export? What list are you going to leave to save those extra spawns that we've talked about? Tell me about your choices and the reasoning behind them. But to make this at least a tiny bit challenging, here's the second part. Imagine you want to export a boat. Which one are you going to choose and how are you going to transport it to the marker? Describe your method, maybe it's gonna be useful for somebody. We've reached the part where I should thank you for watching and end the video, however, I still have a bonus part for those who are still here. I had a chance to talk to the person who found the trick and ask a few questions, and Desgek was kind enough to answer all of them. My first question was obviously, how did you find this trick? And the story behind it is pretty interesting. Desgek was doing a casual hunter, so no speedruns, no tricks, no shenanigans, but with the SSSA mod. This stands for Super Sunshine Autos, obviously a reference to GTA Vice City. And the idea of that mod is that you have to deliver all of the vehicles that are present in the game to a lighthouse. San Andreas has 2 lighthouses, you can use both of them. And it's obvious that if you find the rare car that is missing from both the mod and import-export, then you should probably export it first, then import a new copy and deliver that to the lighthouse. This way you don't have to find the second instance of a rare car. For the third list, Desgek did that with at least euros. They didn't notice anything too unusual happening during import-export, although one time when they were exporting a car, they were also importing a different one at the same time. And the car that was supposed to be exported actually didn't and stayed on the marker. Desgek didn't pay much attention to that at the time, but when they were delivering the penultimate vehicle, the mission suddenly passed, and there was one car on the board that was still uncrossed. That is definitely very weird, so Desgek decided to open the script, read it, understand it, find the issue and share it with us, and this is how this trick was found. As I said, pretty cool story. My second question was about the trick name. This trick is called Lidl Experts, and I was like, Lidl? That's just a supermarket from Germany as far as I know. How is that connected to GTA? And apparently, it's called Lidl Experts because in Vice City, all of the new strats are usually called Pepega something. Pepega is an additional emote for Twitch. It used to be very popular back in the day, but right now, not so much I would say. It's used when somebody says or does something stupid or silly. For example, imagine you are racing in a GTA 4 Most Wanted Madness tournament, you are winning against a super strong opponent, and on the last target you decide to use a baseball bat, which obviously increases your chances of dying significantly. If you do so, the chat would rightfully call you a pepega. Man, what am I even doing with my life? Explaining the meaning of Twitch emotes on YouTube? What? Where did I go wrong? Anyway, in GTA Vice City it's kind of a tradition right now, so Desgek wanted something similar for GTA San Andreas, and apparently Lidl is also a meme on the Forsen's channel. Forsen is a big Twitch streamer, and I cannot really explain this meme to you because I haven't watched Forsen at all. But anyway, Desgek just wanted a meme name for the strat, and that's how we landed on Lidl Experts. My final question was more of a joke question. Initially I didn't really want to ask it, but I felt like 2 questions is not really enough, so I went for it, and honestly, I do not regret the decision. I asked when should we expect a new discovery from Desgek, which is sort of a reference to another GTA speedrunning community meme, where people believe that when somebody finds a strat, they don't share it with the community, they actually keep that strat to themselves, or maybe like in a small private group, and they reveal that strat only like, I don't know, half a year later, a year later. Obviously, nobody is doing that. Right? Anyway, even though the question was more of a joke, I got a pretty serious answer and I'm very happy about it. So turns out that Desgek is too lazy to keep up with the duping strats, so the only way we can get a new trick from them is if they find something playing casually or notice something funny when reading the scripts. And it turns out that already happened. Desge found that you can use the crane to mark vehicles. Marked vehicles don't despawn if you die or get busted, so that's very useful for individual level speedrunning. After reading that answer, I got curious and I asked, do you just read random scripts for fun? Is it GTA San Andreas only? And yes, turns out that Desgag is reading scripts for fun, it's mostly San Andreas, and the reason that they gave me is just beautiful. Turns out that older games, so GTA Vice Cities and GTA 3's scripts, feel too simple. Desgag doesn't read these scripts because they are too easy for them. Honestly, that's based. So I had to joke about VCS because for VCS we only have a decompilation, and that decompilation is almost impossible to read, so very hard. And Desgag says, yeah, they would read VCS scripts if we had leaked sources. And I'm like, oh, but what's wrong with decompilations though? And it looks like it's no fun to read the scripts if they don't have the original names like Shit Counter and other funny ones. And this concludes our mini interview. Once again, huge thank you to Desgag for answering all of my questions. And honestly, let me know what do you think about this one. I'll be honest with you, I've had an idea of doing interviews for a very long time, but I was never sure about it. But maybe if you like this one, I can think about it a bit more, who knows. Please let me know down in the comments. Alright, now it's finally time to remind you that the poll for the next topic is already live. This time we once again have 2 polls, so make sure you vote in both of them. You can find the links in the pinned comment. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, and if you don't want to miss the next episode, consider subscribing. No, really, let's get to 11,000 subscribers, we're super close. My name is Waffle, see you another time.